and welcome to Barb Talks. Looks like I have a little halo today with the background. I want to talk about decluttering heirloom items and special memory items. Things that we've held on to going, oh my gosh, this is such an important family heirloom. It was great-grandma's china, or it was great-grandpa's fishing reel. And we want these items to go to somebody who will appreciate them. So my tip is, start in your 60s. Start when your kids, if you have kids, are beginning their own journeys, building a household, and might actually need those items, that antique table, or the fishing reel, or the camera, or those type of items that you do want to pass on. You've enjoyed them, and you don't want them just to go in the trash. Gifting them now, while you can watch the person who's receiving them enjoy them, is just a wonderful place to be. So some of the items that I am looking to regift or have already regifted, there's a rocking chair that was my paternal grandmother and grandfather. In fact, they had two. They had a rocker for grandpa and a rocker for grandma. And one of those rockers went to my older sister Susie, and the other rocker came to me. And my parents did it right, because they gifted me that rocker right when I gave birth to my first child. So I had this antique rocking chair that I was able to rock my baby to sleep in. One of the stories about this rocking chair, my dad came down to visit us when my daughter was a toddler, and my dad could sleep anywhere. It is a Hughes family trait just to be able to fall asleep on a dime. And he fell asleep sitting in a rocking chair. And here's my toddler daughter walking around the rocking chair with her thumb in her mouth, just looking at grandpa like, how is he doing that? So it's amazing. Now my daughter has moved into her first home. My nieces and some of my nephews have moved into their first homes. So I was asking around who would like this particular rocking chair. It turns out that my sister, her oldest daughter, is going to have her rocking chair, and her middle daughter wants my rocking chair. So my sister took apart the rocking chair, put it in her car, drove it down to where my niece lives, set it up, because my niece just gave birth to her first child. So that wonderful memory of having a baby being rocked in the family heirloom rocking chair will be passed on to another generation. Another antique chair that was from my husband's side of the family, we gifted to his niece, Christy. That particular chair, it was a sewing chair, and it had a secret drawer on the bottom that you could open up and stash your sewing things in it. And I believe Christy is a crafter, so for her to put her knitting or whatever in that little sewing chair. We know these items are going on to family members to be used now. And the great thing about that is when they have kids, the kids will know that item, will hear the family history of that item, so it'll be more likely that they'll want that item. It helps to move those family heirlooms along when people are familiar with the stories behind them. My dad was a shop teacher, and he wanted to make a demonstration table to show how you could use science and art so that his students would be inspired to build tables in his wood shop. So he blew up this picture of the universe and put it on plywood and then screwed some legs on the bottom. This one-of-a-kind piece that my dad made as a shop teacher. Another niece, Erica, wants that. So when she ends up coming out, she's planning on driving out with her family to visit this coming summer. And she's going to bring a big truck with her to pick up some items from her mom, including the other rocking chair I was talking about, as well as her mom has an antique bed. And this particular table from the 1960s, one-of-a-kind table my dad made. So that's going to go to a niece. And just knowing that it's going to be used, it's going to be loved, and the story's going to be passed on just means a lot. My niece Jenny asked for the little miscellaneous jewelry pieces. You know how sometimes your mom, your grandma, even yourself, you get these little odds and ends of jewelry. Why not ask family members if they want them? So my niece Jenny asked for these jewelry pieces, and I think there was a bank. These were things that my mom had, but she didn't share the memories behind them. So I have no information about why these were important to her. Passing them on to Jenny, she might be able to research. It looks like some of them might be DMLA or Rainbow Girl, like affiliated organizations that were popular back in the day. And I think there might be some military things in there as well, jewelry. So after you've offered your heirloom items to family members, offer them to friends. This particular bicycling ornament, this isn't some fancy heirloom, but it is a memory that was important to me. I was very much into biking, but we were a one-car family. Our kids all had bikes, we had bikes, and I'd bike with my kids to school, I'd biked to meetings. So I loved to bike. That was a really important part of who I was. But now I'm to the place where I don't really have a big Christmas tree anymore. I have a little tabletop one. And so I was thinking, who might like this little bicycle ornament? Who is into bicycling right now? Well, it turns out later that day, I was visiting with a friend of mine who bikes everywhere. And I told her about this ornament, and she was saying that she has a cross-country ski ornament on her tree, but she also bikes everywhere. And I asked her, would you like this bike ornament? And she said yes. So I gave the bike ornament to my friend Karen. Another item I gave to a friend was a childhood toy that I had. Piglet, of all the characters of Winnie the Pooh, I was the smallest in my family, and I could relate to Piglet's kindness and kind of stuttering and trying to figure out how he fits in and maybe not being taken seriously that often. And I could relate to Piglet as a child, so I really loved my Piglet stuffy. But what I have discovered is it's hard to give away old stuffed animals because they're kind of full of dust and they're ugly looking. A lot of people just toss them away. However, my friend Linda likes to collect. I'm getting rid of my collections, but she's somebody who still wants them. So I'm like, all right. So she's enjoying my Piglet, and I appreciate that. Another place to rehome your heirloom items and your special memory items is specialty resale shops. There is a shop called Dr. Tongue's. I had that shop. A weird and wild collectible shop specializing in the stuff your mother threw away from the 1950s to the 1990s. Just a lot of the odd toys and tchotchkes that were popular then. I've been able to sell to this shop. Things that I thought, nobody wants this. I had a collection of old Super Balls. If you have a 50-year-old Super Ball, it doesn't have much bounce left into it. It's pretty much a hard little ball that's cracked. Well, this Dr. Tongue's, I had that shop, wants those. They say people still like those. So there was like this big bucket full of old Super Balls. So he bought mine to put in that bucket because the things their mother threw away, they're going, oh, I wonder if there's still that odd thing that I loved as a child. Well, Dr. Tongue's most likely sells it. It's a great place to sell your toys to. Another thing I sold to him was a tea set. It was a wood carved apple, and it had a little carved tea set inside that was made out of wood. I don't remember where I got that. It was some gift when I was probably grade school. I was from a town that had apple blossom. It was like apples were really celebrated. I enjoyed it, but I don't have any use for a wooden tea set. So I sold it to Dr. Tongue's. I had that shop because he said, oh, my wife is a collector of odd tea sets. So he bought it for his wife. So that was fun. Another specialty shop is a record store. Vinyl is becoming really popular now. And I think it has been for several years, actually. But if you've got an old vinyl collection of records, or maybe you've got CDs or 8-track tapes or that type of thing, sometimes these old record stores are looking for that and will buy the items from you. My husband had several 45s from, I think, the 1960s, 1970s. And so we sold those. The item that sold for the most was some obscure local artist. It was like some beginning rap thing. I can't even tell you what it was. My husband was like, oh, I'm ready to get rid of it. But for whatever reason, that was considered a rare one. So if you've got odd records that you're thinking, nobody's ever heard of this, that might be just the thing that the record stores will buy from you. Then you know they're going to get into the hands of somebody who will appreciate it. And isn't that what we all want with our heirloom and memory items? I'm sure there's other specialty shops that would buy your things, like jewelry shops. And of course, there's Etsy and eBay. And then if you've gone through all those different places and you still have a handful of heirloom items or special items from your childhood that you want to go to somebody who would appreciate them. Another option is your local Buy Nothing group. It's a neighborhood group that you ask for items or offer items and people come pick them up and everything is free. So you're not going to make money and it's not going to necessarily go to a family member, but it'll still go to somebody besides the landfill that can use your table. Maybe they're not into an antique table, but they just need a new table and they don't have a table. Your table might be perfect in their home or apartment. One of the things that I gave away on our local Buy Nothing group was a piece of art that I'd made when I was in high school, and I never was able to do the final firing of this piece of clay art because it was too big to fit into the final firing kiln. So I've had it for 50 years. My mom had it for a while. She used it as an umbrella stand, which is not what you're supposed to do with clay that hasn't been fired. It was like green clay that I'd painted, but I hadn't gone through the second firing. So I had it for a while as an umbrella stand too, and it was starting to fall apart in the bottom because you'd put your umbrella in and it would bang on the non-fired clay. And it was starting to break. But I thought, okay, let's see if anybody wants this before I have to throw it away. And sure enough, there was somebody that wanted that. And I said specifically, this is art. Don't use it as an umbrella stand unless you're going to fire it again. But somebody came by, picked it up for free, and I was able to find a home for something that was important to me and represented my creativity. I took a picture of it before I gave it away. So I still have the memory in here and as a picture. So do you have any other ideas of ways to rehome your heirloom items or your memory items? If you do, please leave a comment below. Thanks for being with me today, and thanks for watching Barb Talks.